Hi, everyone. Welcome to Beyond Deadlines, a podcast where we tackle challenges that schedule leaders come across on a day-to-day basis. My name is Micah, and I'm a scheduling manager for Intel.
And my name is Greg Lawton, and I'm the CEO of an AI schedule management company called Nodes and Links.
Each podcast, we designed to give you a framework, tactics, and strategies that you can implement right away. Today, we're tackling digital transformation. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So Greg, you've been brought into a construction company, and the owner has tasked you to work with the VP of operations to digitalize scheduling. How do you go about doing it?
Right in on the deep end. Okay, right. So, my questions, as normal. And then none of these questions are about digitalization. What is the current set of processes that this owner has around scheduling?
The current set is they're using Primavera P6, and the general contractors will email the files to the owner on a monthly basis. And that is what they have set up.
Cool. And then what do they do after they get those files?
They run a couple standard reports out of Primavera P6. They do a 4-week look ahead, and they do a total schedule.
Okay. And
all on PDFs.
All in PDFs. And the output of that, I'm guessing it goes into a reporting pack that then gets presented to some VPs.
It goes into reporting packs. Some of them get snagged and put in, but a lot of it doesn't make it up to that level of VP because it's a Primavera P6 Gantt.
Okay. Well, what are the valuable bits of this process? Why do they even bother going about doing this? Is it just tick boxing so they've got a record of what's happening? Are they trying to have a collaborative relationship with their contractor, or are they trying to make strategic decisions about their portfolio of projects?
So prior to this new VP of operations being hired, it was more of a tick box, something they thought was an industry standard that's always been done. Now that this new VP of operations has been hired, they realize that scheduling is one of the vehicles they can use to greatly increase the impact on their program. And so they're brought you in because they know this is the basics, but they don't know what the next level is and the next level after that is.
Got it. So what you're actually telling me is it's new process creation.
Yeah, they're going to need, this is a ground up construction.
Okay, I don't know if the 20 minutes are enough for me to go into this, but let me try and focus on some
speak
specific.
quickly.
Right. Okay. So, well, I'll state out a very simple principle here, which is digital is there to automate and enhance, not create. Things should be able to be created manually and then enhanced with digital, as opposed to they can only be created digitally. So what I'm hearing here are there are a number of processes that we could mock up and trial and demonstrate fully manually to see if they delivered an ROI, and it's what the VP of operations is looking for. So a specific example here, if they were just doing a tick box exercise, what I would personally look at is, for example, a delay and disruption analysis on key dates, given updates from the general contractor using the delivered production rates of that contractor. So I can say, given the current rate of progress, this is when these things are going to finish. This is what's going to trigger delays. This is how the project's going to end up. Very, very simple. Is that the kind of analysis that you're looking for here?
Let's take a step back. That might not be simple for everybody. I think we got to unpack that one a little bit. So, I mean, if you're just getting monthly schedules from the general contractor, how are you then delivering that as a test case to a company that has no experience? That's going to look like a foreign language to them. Walk me through a little bit how you're going to slide that one in.
Second rule, 5 bullet point principle. Never present anything to a CEO that's more than 5 bullet points, preferably 3 bullet points. So I'll try that here. So for example, I'd say bullet point 1. Historically, this project has produced a day of progress for every 1.2 days of work. They're at 86% productivity or whatever.
And when you say productivity, you're defining that as just activities complete?
I'd have to see the program. You could do it as completed activities. You could do it as weighted duration. That's kind of in the weeds for this. I think just a top level. There's just a number that is representative that I'd use my experience to determine. So number one, basically, productivity is not 1. It's less than 1. Cool. Number 2, implication. This means if the future is the same as the past and nothing changed, these milestones would move. Implication number 3, this is bad because. Implication, bullet point number 4, we can do different things. This is how we'd accelerate. This is how we'd improve. Bullet point number 5, to do these things, I would need X. Like just a very, very simple. And do you know what? For these kinds of things, I draw it in crayon. It doesn't really matter. Like, you don't need some advanced detailing.
All right, so you slide your crayon drawing across the table to the VP of operations. He picks it up and says, "Oh yes, I do like this magenta colored diagram you've driven me in crayon. I want more of it. I got a couple $1,000,000. Everyone thought this was the best thing since sliced bread. How do we go, take this, launch this off and continue on this path of digitization?"
Beautiful. Okay. So let's go in what digitization, proper digitization actually gives us. It gives us the ability to amplify output. So if we can produce 1 hour of work manually, good digitization allows us to produce 100 hours of work. If we can create standardization of one project, digitization allows us to create standardization of 100 projects. So digitization is a scale set of technologies, not a creation set, which I've said. But now we've created, we can scale. Now, my first question would be, well, to myself, how effortful was it to create that report? Now, let's just say that to create that report took 10 hours. Okay. And let's say that I'm being paid handsomely at $500 an hour. So let's say that's a $5,000 report right there. Micah, how many of those reports do you want a month?
I don't care about reports. I care about value. So which reports are going to give me the biggest impact, save my projects the most money, and make me look like the greatest VP of operations of all time? Because my stock options are coming up, and that third home doesn't pay for itself.
Okay. Well, there's a deeper underlying piece of work there, which would be what are the main processes? But I'm just going to make a big leap of logic here, and I'm just going to say those processes. Oh, go on.
Oh, but let's just say, like, here's your kind of key processes to focus around, right? You have whatever the general contractor's doing in their little world, when they send the file over to our world, and then what happens when we receive the file and get it into our system and create our own outputs. So I think those are the 3 worlds that you have to operate in.
So how many schedules are you getting a month?
Let's say 20.
20. How many people do you have to analyze those schedules?
5.
You have 5. Okay. So let's say that just that piece of analysis that I did took 10 hours. Let's say there's 3 pieces of analysis because you said what they're doing on their side, getting it over on our side, and then analyzing it. It'd be way more than 3, but I'm going to just simplify it. Let's say it's 3. So that's 30 hours per schedule coming in. There'll be inefficiencies in terms of utilization. So call it 40 hours, which is a week of work, which means that one scheduler can deal with 4 of these. You've got 20 coming in, which means you need at least 5 schedulers. my first challenge to you would be, why not just hire a fifth and do the whole thing manually? Why digitize?
Well, I think that we realize there's value missing. There's potential to do more. We've had a rough go at hiring our last couple schedulers, and we would like to look at other options outside of just bringing in more bodies. We think that we can get better outputs from the inputs by not having to necessarily increase our workforce consistently. And hiring great schedulers is hard to do these days.
Got it. Okay. Right. I'll jump straight into it then. So how would I structure digital program for this kind of company? Now that I have the context and the processes, etc. So number one is what I'd be looking to do and prove. I'd be looking to show that I can meaningfully improve processes. And by meaningfully improve, what I mean is the 5 core KPIs. So benefit or quality, cycle time, cost, failure rate, and throughput of those. So what you're telling me here is you'd like more throughput. You'd like it to be cost effective, and you'd like a much quicker output, so less cycle time, and you then want to use the work capacity that you've got remaining to explore other processes, because there's lots more than just those 3 that we looked at.
And if you're not like Greg, you can get those tattooed on your arm, so you'll always remember them in any interview.
I just play far too much Factorial. Far too much. I've got 32 red chips producing at 2 seconds apiece for an energy cost of. Anyway, right. So, okay, with that, we're looking at digital transformation. So how would I look about doing this? Well, first of all, what I do is in each process sequence, you have individual process stages, so tasks, and then people and tools associated with those tasks. So, for example, to create that report where I detailed those 5 points, what I'd look to do is I'd look to get the schedule. I'd look to feed it very, very quickly into a digital system. So there's some customers that I work with where it would take 15 hours for them to load something into P6.
Yeah.
Get rid of that rubbish, straight into a data lake or something similar within 30 seconds is what I'm looking at. Then what I'd look to do is analyze productivity via an appropriate coding structure. So let's say that it's done by WBS or CBS or OBS. I'd look to do that. I'd look to get the productivity rates from that, the SPI plus the predictability.
Would you have any, prior to going into the data lake, would you have any sort of filters or catches to make sure that schedule you're getting isn't trash, or on the basics, like you mentioned WBS, like maybe the GC didn't code their WBS in it or something, like those are the I've always gotten burned by you set up this fancy system to do all these things, then you get it over and they forgot to put this code in or that WBS in.
Yes, the reason I say yes rather than yes is because 99% of people try to build the world's most complex system in one go.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Modularize the thing. So the point of this system is to take an input and to produce that exact 5 bullet point report. Then we talk about, well, I'm getting crap data in. Okay, then there's a module I need to plug in the front of it, which is called the sort your data out module. And the sort your data out module will be relevant to many processes that we plug in, which is why it needs to be separated. So yes, there'll be one where it has to have a relevant coding structure, but I'd also have schedule checks in. So for example, you don't have negative floats, or you don't have cyclical dependencies. I'd also have one in there which is it's even saved as the right name. so that things, and it might even be classed as the right project in that it's a certain kind of build so that they can be compared at a portfolio level. What you want is a modular system plugged into the front where you can very quickly add criteria of what I call data filtering, but that is isolated from the process algorithm where you're trying to do these individual process flows. So yes, you would. I'd go, yes, because I'd do the second, make sure I've got the output I wanted. I'd start at the end, the thing that's actually valuable, this report, and I'd go backwards and go, how do I make sure I can produce this without producing a pile of rubbish?
Yeah. So let's jump forward a little bit, because I think you highlighted a good framework to kind of look at each of these different modules and how someone could attack that digitization effort. You get that initial, let's call it phase one setup. Let's say the focus was just that report you mentioned earlier. That is up and running. It's cranking out. They're loving it. You maybe do a couple little tweaks. Now, the VP of operations gives you the challenge. Cool. I like it. I don't want more of these little step jumps. I want to go to the moon. I saw a video on AI. I saw talking robots. How do you look at providing maximum value, maximum impact at almost like a digitization moonshot? How do you go about doing that? If you do that, maybe you don't propose that. Maybe you give me that soft yes you just gave me.
You absolutely can do. So here's the secret. Obviously, it's a bit unfair here because I run an AI company, so I've got a bit of unfair knowledge on this just because I've had to build this kind of stuff. You always build bottom up, but you always strategize top down. So bottom up is actually useful. So there's a guy on the ground who has to get a process done. How do you help with each step in that process to make it faster, more higher quality, less failure rate, less costly in terms of work or money, and higher throughput numbers? Like, there's that. At the top, you could have general themes. So the biggest general theme that I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis here is how do I bring non-human workforce, GPT and things like that? How do I bring AI, essentially, is what people are asking, into the system? Now, AI is not a singular technology. It's many technologies. It's not focused on a singular task, but many tasks. It's a horizontal thing. But with horizontal things, create themes, and themes create consistency. So what I'd say is, okay, if you want a moonshot, let's say you wanted a moonshot of, you wanted these AI robots, I'd be saying, okay, let's just look across everything you do. What is the most valuable and time-consuming things that happen in this organization? It's the most valuable is probably in this project organization, anything to do with delay and disruption, forecasting the future, or risk, or change. Those four. The most time-consuming is probably reporting and going round the circle trying to find information. So I'd be like, okay.
So you would implement Power BI reports.
Yeah. Like, let me show you 700 dashboard pages.
I guess Microsoft isn't sponsoring this podcast yet.
No. Well, the Copilot brought out is really good. What I'd say there is there's a key thing in these, which is content and curation. This is what made Facebook a juggernaut. You've got enormous amounts of content, and then you can create it to the exact thing that people want. So long story short here, on this moonshot, I would say, right, what you want is a set of horizontal modules that can plug into those processes. So one module could plug into 17 processes at different stages and smoothen. So
are you talking the module would just basically be tweaked? So you would maybe have some sort of schedule analyzer checker that creates some sort of output, and then you would just implement it at different, and you're just looking for where can I plug this in the most times to have the most value. That way I create it once. And then
exactly. Well, I'll give you an exact example, and this is something that we've actually just built and we're about to deploy, which is a private GPT that understands all of the workflows that are already automated and embedded, and you can just tell it you want something and it will go and do all of the whatever workflow sequence makes sense to produce. So you could just go, you could type, Micah's project has just submitted a schedule. Please create me a 5 bullet point report pack on what I need to do. And it knows to go first through the schedule check module, then it knows to go to the 5 bullet point process module and do each of the steps. So, and the result in that is you reduce, the 10 hours of work down to 5 seconds, that kind of thing.
And this is interesting because we almost do a full circle all the way back. When you go look at this moonshot, it's almost like a full circle all the way back to the beginning, where you have these little worlds, we call them, at the beginning, and this different sets of processes, and it's almost like starting over, because you get a look at everything. Even if you set it up great or amazing in today's standards, it may be completely ripe for opportunity. Like, let's say you had the greatest schedule import check system of all time that ran through and kicked out all your Power BI reports and created this great package of change and variation. You still have, because I remember what you said earlier, which was brilliant, is that AI, what we have today in AI works better to automate what we exist and not necessarily create. And so it's kind of interesting, because it almost seems like you're starting at the very beginning of our podcast, except you're just looking for much higher. The lens you look through is looking for, I think, probably just a different type of impact. Or, I mean, what do you think about that?
Yes. So the way that I think about this is it's all about leverage. And I define leverage as I can put 1 unit of work in and get more than 1 unit of work out. So with a pencil, I can do a 1-to-1 conversion. With an auto script writer, I can get a bit higher. With a piece of AI that can write things for me, I get much higher. And with a team trained in how to use the AI, I can multiply that an infinite amount. Coming full circle back to the digital transformation piece, the secret of project businesses is that project management is about processes. And that those processes are either explicit, implicit, or a mix of implicit and explicit. And being able to define what those processes are, so a very simple one is the monthly reporting process. Being able to define the process, even at highest level, allows us to then define process KPIs. Process KPIs being throughput, failure rate, quality, cost, cycle time, and workload. And from that, then we can start to decide, when given a technology, does this technology apply at this level, or does this technology allow us to ask a philosophical question of what if we did something completely different? So, for example, if you as the VP of operations didn't come in and say, please digitize scheduling to improve what we do and do that. If you said, please digitalize scheduling so that I can talk to a piece of AI directly about my projects, those are very different things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Second's a bit of a moonshotty one. I'm like, okay. Now, could I tell you all of the ROI of the second? No, I couldn't, because there'd be so much emergent process and emergent behavior that would come about as a result of having such a crazy new capability. I couldn't justify it from everything from day one. But the first one, I could justify. So what we're doing is we're trading in those two situations, certainty against upside. And then it just comes down to if you're a betting man or not. Now, if you take some of the clients in construction companies where they'd look and go, $1 million or $2 million to have this kind of system, and we'll see what the upside turns out. When they're making, 5-10 billion profit a year, it's nothing to them. If you go into a company where you go, making 30 million profit a year, it's like, actually that's massive. So they edge more towards certainty. It just really depends on who the company is. But one's ability in digitization, to trade off between certainty and upside directly impacts one's ability to hold a competitive market position in the future. So you just take like Google, it owns the entire of internet search, basically. Like Yahoo failed. A bunch of them failed.
Can you please describe Yahoo for the younger generation listening? No, just kidding. Well, folks, we love to keep you on schedule and on your critical path for the day. That's why we like to keep these podcasts short and informative. Greg and I could probably go on for hours talking about digital transformation, but the bonus is that leaves us the ability to shoot another episode on this. So if you like this content, please subscribe to our channel, provide some likes, and let us know any other topics you want us to cover. So for a close, Greg, any final thoughts?
My final thought here would just be very simply to think about, are you someone who wants certainty, or are you someone who wants upside? And then within those, think, well, what is the KPI or the output that I'd be looking to achieve? All of that comes far before choosing a digital system or choosing how to digitize anything. It's 90% of the effort is spent on what the hell am I trying to do here, and how will I know if I've done it? Once you know all of that, to be honest, the digital stuff is pretty damn simple if you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. Wise words to close out on. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.